Well, good morning, and here we are at lesson 10. Yay! And lesson 10 is probably my favourite lesson, or one of my favourite lessons anyway, in the first half of the workbook, which is the undoing of the way you think now. And I say it's probably my favourite because it has the most relevance to me in my own story, because it was something that I used in a particular moment wherein everything was chaotic in my mind, and it had a profound effect. And lesson 12 is another one like that. But lesson 10 I have used many times over the years. Just picked up the book at random, and I'm using the white edition again. You can get it on Amazon. Just Google A Course in Miracles White Edition, Book A and Book B. Book A is the text, which has all the differences in it, and Book B is the workbook and teacher's manual, same as any other edition of A Course in Miracles. Lesson 10, very profound and very liberating too. It's one of those lessons that just all of a sudden everything is just like whoosh, wiped clean, and that idea of trying to scramble through your own thoughts to try and make sense of something, all of a sudden that's done away with. You know, it's like I'm left completely in in the grace of God. You know, and it's really a beautiful lesson. So I'll just start reading it, and then we might have a bit of a chat about it after. And again, like the preceding lesson, there's an application period where you name your thoughts, etc. So lesson 10 is, my thoughts do not mean anything. How awesome is that? My thoughts don't mean anything. And it's like, I don't know the meaning of the life. I don't know the meaning of the world, why I'm here, anything. So what about all this other junk going around in my head? Does it mean anything? Well, if I don't know the meaning of life, it only means whatever the meaning it is that I've given it. Does that mean that that's the actual meaning? Of course not. All right, lesson 10, my thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice period. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before and will again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts, and no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. Did you hear that? The lack of reality of what you think you think. If my thoughts are telling me what's going on out there. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless outside rather than within. Meaningless. And then stressed their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. That's a big one, isn't it? To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision. Right? We're chasing this vision, Christ's vision. Close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself. Then add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. The exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts which are available to you without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it helpful to do so, you might imagine that you are watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. As each one crosses your mind, say, this thought about blank does not mean anything. That thought about blank does not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. Today's idea can obviously serve for any thoughts that distress you at any time. Right? Any thoughts that distress you at any time. In addition, 5 practice periods are recommended, each involving no more than a minute or so of mind searching. It is not recommended that this time period be extended, and it should be reduced to half a minute or less if you experience discomfort. However, remember to repeat the idea slowly before applying it specifically, and also to add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. An oddly assorted procession going by. That's what our thoughts are. That's what, I remember at one point in my life that my mind was just this blah, 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 incessant kind of chatter of random things. One thought about this, another thought about that, and then the next thing, and it's like, what the fuck, and then just when will it stop? And it wouldn't stop. Couldn't make it stop. And lesson 12 was actually my first huge everything stopped kind of moment. And but lesson 10 also, not during the first time I did it, the first year that I did the workbook, but at some other point in my life, going back way, and I just opened the workbook at random. It's like I need a lesson, God. And it opened at lesson 10, and I did it, and all of a sudden my mind was quiet again. It was like beautiful, and the application of the lesson to the situation that was specifically bothering me was perfect. And you'll find too that, perhaps not so much the workbook, but in the text, you can do this with the workbook, but I prefer in the workbook to do one lesson a day as they go. Some people just pick it up and use it like an oracle, but I definitely can use the text. You pick up the text and use it like an oracle, just open it anywhere for the day, read a few pages, and it's like, that's right. But also, I'm a bit systematic as well. I like to start at the front and end at the back. But it doesn't matter, however you do it, But the workbook lessons, as long as you're applying them specifically, as it states in the individual instructions for each lesson, you'll be right. So, and the other thing that I wanted to add too was because when I did these lessons the first year, first time around, I got to lesson 260 or something and realised how half-hearted I'd been with the application of the lessons, and I made a decision to go back and do it. And now one of the things that happens is, and I think I've mentioned this before, but when Jesus says, and I'm just using an old biblical reference here, to the merchant, he's on the road to Nazareth or wherever he's going, and he passes a merchant and says he's got his truckload, the merchant's got his trolley cart, I'll get it, loaded up with goods for the market. And Jesus says to him, give up the world and follow me. And the merchant says, let me just go and sell all my goods at the market, Jesus, and I'll follow you. And you've got to bear in mind, Jesus had a big reputation at this time doing miracles and whatever. And if you don't believe in miracles, it's like, man, I've had a fucking miracle, and I've seen people go through miraculous recovery of all sorts of things, and I believe in miracles. So, and I've seen miracles through my hands. So, but he says, give up the world and follow me. And the merchant says, well, let me just, and Jesus says, well, look, the kingdom of heaven waits for no man. Sorry, man, you've missed your chance. It's one whole, complete, resounding yes. Right? So you're being offered a complete alternative to the way you think that results in a completely different perspective and outlook and sense of self that you would never have thought possible. But to attain it, you must be willing to let go of the meaning you've given the old world, your world, the world that you've made up in here to be good, bad, right and wrong, that judgmental world. So when he says, I die, he who values his life will lose it, and he who dies will, in my name, will find life everlasting. It's like, it's the death of the ego. It's the death of the old world, the old way of thinking and seeing and everything like that. So, but it has to be 100%. It has to be all or nothing, right? It's no good to be lukewarm. It's either hot or cold. You're either in or you're out. This has to be the most important thing to you in your life. Your own healing, your own gift that you give to yourself. Right? This is about moving on in the journey of the soul. This is not about just being happy in the world and having a peaceful life until you pass away into the dust. This is preparing you for what's next. And if you don't believe in that, I can't help you to believe in that, but I can tell you I've had glimpses of what's next. And I'm not missing out. And you're going to think I'm crazy about that, but look around you. Look at the world. Which one of us is crazy? You know? Turn on your TV. So, lesson 10, my thoughts do not mean anything. So we'll do the application of, so just search your mind for any thoughts, especially any that are troubling you, and try not to classify them as I'll apply it to this one or I won't apply it to that one. Just whatever, right? Whatever's there. But you'll find if there are troubling thoughts that they'll be more prevalent. They'll pop up more, and I'm jealous about this because, and blah 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 blah, and all of that sort of stuff. So this thought about being jealous does not mean anything. Right, now when I did these lessons, he says to add at the end, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. I also put my thoughts do not mean anything at the front. I don't know why I just did that. So I used to start with my thoughts do not mean anything. This thought about being jealous does not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all I now believe. Right, and then I would go on to the next one. This thought about floating off into outer space does not mean anything. Right? This thought will help to release me from all I believe. This thought about A Course in Miracles does not mean anything. This thought will help to release me from all I now believe. This thought about gurus or spiritual stuff does not mean anything. This thought will help to release me from all I now believe. Right, now your job, your process and your purpose and everything else like that is to return your mind to God as it was given to you, blank, clean, free of all the junk of the world, including spiritual teachings. Right? So if you're gathering more and more information about spiritual teachings, this is one of the higher reaching sort of things, if you're someone who's like reading this course, doing these lessons, and then out there getting more books and more things and learning about different sannyasins and da-di-da and da-di-da-di-da, you're actually compiling more crap in your library that you need to be able to apply this lesson to, because your purpose, the job that you have at hand, is to return your mind to God as it was given to you, not fill it up with more crap, spiritual or otherwise. Right? There are no prizes for who knows the most spiritual gobbledygook. Can you hear that? Anyway, so for about a minute or so, this thought about spiritual gobbledygook does not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all I now believe. This thought about crystals and tarot cards does not mean anything. This idea will help to release me from all I now believe. I'm returning my mind to its original state. I don't know the meaning of life. I need to be shown. I can have an experience of that when my mind is open and clean enough, clear enough, and empty enough from all this bullshit, right, that's going on in there 24/7, so that I will be able to absorb, hold on to, make use of that experience. And it won't be corrupted by a bunch of chechi barechi that seems to be going on in there now. All right, so that's lesson 10. I love lesson 10. And tomorrow, obviously, lesson 11, which will be my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And all of your thoughts are meaningless. All of my thoughts are meaningless. There's not one true thought I can hold about myself that has any pertinent reference for anything that goes on in my life whatsoever. I'm not a Dave. I'm not a thing reading these books. I'm spirit. This is a body. I call it a Dave, and somebody gave me that name. I think they just made it up. All right, I love you. And have fun, right? Have fun with it. It's pretty funny shit when you realise that we're doing this to ourselves. It's like, holy fuck, I made a choice to come to a place where no one knows anything, and we've just been making it up since Adam, since the first conscious man, woman, whatever. All right, it's going to be a beautiful day here in Australia. If you want to come on holiday and pay us a visit, love to have you. See you soon.